I really hate you. You made me so mad. I am not your friend. I am not going to be your friend anymore. I don't care what you say. That's it. I wish I could tell you how many times I've heard this out of the mouth of a kid. Like many hundreds, possibly thousands. Because at my school, I used to do the aftercare program, which means I could have upwards of 120 kids from the ages of 3 to the end of 6th grade, so 12, 13-ish. Wowza. This is a common problem. Kids get ticked. I hate you. You're not going to be my friend. It's good to have you with me today, and we are going to talk about affection, being a friend. Do you know that everything in your whole life basically is relational? Okay. You're born of a woman and you have a relationship with her. Whether she's a good mom or a lousy one is not the question, but you have a relationship with her. If you have siblings, brothers and sisters, which I have 9 of those, you have lots of relationships with people in your world. You have aunts and uncles, you have cousins, you have grandparents. You have relationships. You go to school, you have a teacher, you have classmates, you have friends. Everything in life, it's a relationship. When you become an adult and you have a job, if you don't have a decent relationship with your coworkers, you're going to have a tough life. In fact, you're probably not going to keep that job because if it's really lousy and uncomfortable in the pits, relationally, it's not a good place to work. So I want you to acknowledge that life is extraordinarily relational. And yet, so many of us, including me when I was younger, because of my familial situation, the place where I was raised, and the people by whom I was raised, are really relationship challenged. So, one of the greatest things you can do in sharing affection with your child is teach them what it means to be a friend. That means we have to understand what it means to be a friend. I always say one of the best ways to determine what a good friend is not what I should do, but what do I expect from the other guy? If I want them to be loyal, and I want them to be faithful, and I want them to be fun, and I want them to be there when I'm having my worst day ever and I'm crying my eyes out and I can't even explain it, but I really want them to still be with me and to care about me. In other words, I want them to be there through thick and thin, and I want someone that I can actually relate to. In other words, I'm actually reasonably fun, though you and I are always talking pretty seriously. Trust me, I can be pretty crazy occasionally. Anyways, and so I tend to have pretty serious people in my world that know how to have fun. What do you know? I can relate to that. That's pretty easy for me. And so they have to know how to choose a friend and what a friend looks like to them. But then they do have to learn how to be a friend. So, okay, you have this kid. He's really in this tiff, big disagreement. He doesn't mean it. It's not going to be permanent, but the stuff that comes out of his mouth is nasty because he's mad and he's upset and it didn't go very well today. And he sits down with you, goes, Tommy, he said this and this. He did this and this. I'm never going to be his friend again. Okay, here's your opportunity. You get to, help them very kindly and affectionately look at what happened. And so you say to him or her, so because of this one thing, someone who's been your friend for, we'll say 2 years, they're in 2nd or 3rd grade, so they've known this kid since kindergarten and they've played with each other and gone to do things, been at the park and played t-ball. And okay, so this one thing, that's enough to quit being friends about? Yes, I already told you. I'm really mad. I hate his guts. Okay, you have to remember feelings aren't good or bad, they just are. You respond to your child empathetically. It's a great opportunity to show affection to them about how they're feeling, what's happening to them. And you say, if that happened to me, I bet I'd be angry too. If someone talked to me like that, if someone said those things to me, if someone acted like that, I'd be really upset. I understand why you're upset. I really do. It's okay. I just want you to consider this. Is this one thing actually enough to throw away your whole friendship. You may not be ready to make that decision right now because I can tell that your emotions are still very engaged and you're still really upset, and I understand why you are. Okay? But by this evening, or maybe tomorrow, I really want you to look at that. Is this one thing worth throwing away your friendship? And let's put it like this: if you had a bad day, if you said something mean, if you did something mean, would you want him to decide over that one thing to stop being your friend? Often, the way that we learn how to process something is to put it into our own world. So, if I had a bad day, if I said something awful, if I acted terribly and did something kind of not normal for me, because that's again being human and we make mistakes, would I want that person to have grace and to value our friendship so much they wouldn't give up on me over that one terrible day? Then give them time. Let them process it. It's going to take some time and come back to it. So maybe the next day at the end of the school day, you say, "How were things today?" "Oh, we're fine, Mom." "Huh, no big deal." Okay. Or, "I'm still mad at him. I really thought about it last night. I just thought about it and it's not okay." And you know what? Maybe it really isn't. We all have our own threshold. Sometimes one really horrible, terrible, awful, bad thing actually is enough for us to say, that's about enough of that. Okay. Some of us have a much longer fuse or a whole lot more grace and patience. But he's a little kid. You have to help him get through it and process it. Okay. But I want you to know it is a normal behavior for kids to go through this, what I'll call this bickering or fighting or coming to terms. And again, you have to remember that concept of longevity of life, pardon me, please, of life habits and patterns. If they get into the habit of having a friend, but when something goes wrong, they bail, and having a friend and something happens and they're out of there, they're not establishing a good life pattern of connection. And because life is relational, you want them to understand that. Listen, this has been a very good friendship for you. I grant you the way that he talked to you, the thing that she did, that wasn't okay. We do need to address that. If you would like, I'll even go with you. I'll go with you to school. We'll talk to the school counselor. I'll go with you over to Emily's house. We'll have a conversation with her mom and try to learn more about what's going on. Maybe there's something going on we don't know about. Maybe what she really needs right now is your understanding and your compassion. But let's try to find out. This relationship, this friendship is worth enough and you've invested enough in it to continue to pursue it. But still, there needs to be some help with it. That's okay. All right, so you're helping your child to understand what being a friend is. Now, on the other hand, we need to help that child understand what friendship is not. If they have a friend, now let me put a caveat right here. These are two little boys. They're somewhere between 8 and 12, and they tussle and they push each other around. They kind of like punch each other on the arm, that kind of stuff. That's not what I'm talking about. So don't get all up in arms and go, that happens all the time with mine. I'm talking a different story. I'm talking like really punching somebody in the face. And, you know, I'm talking a different level here when I'm going to have this discussion. Your child has a friend and they're kind of a bully. They always have to be in charge. They'll punch them. They'll boss them around. They'll really be rude and insult them. And trust me again, girls, whoa, they can really do this stuff. Don't just think that's a boy thing. And you look at your child and you say, are you really sure you want to be friends with this person? Again, looking at the long picture, if they accept abuse out of a friend and they do it often, or they have more than one friend that they're willing to take abuse from, that's not setting up a good pattern for the future. Because if in their mind a relational situation involves physical or emotional or mental abuse, we all know where that road can go, not where we want our child to be. So you can also help your child assess who they don't want to be friends with. Okay. Did you ever notice that when you're with Tommy, he's very physical with you? He'll, I saw him punch you. I saw him punch you right in the stomach. He didn't just kind of, smack you around a little bit or joke around with you. I mean, he really punched you. Does that happen very often? Because oftentimes, by the time a person is a teenager, I'm going to speak really specifically about young women for a minute here. The incidence of violence has increased dramatically in the last 30 years. There are tons of statistics. I won't go into them. That's not my point. But when I counsel young women, they'll say, oh, well, he just gets mad sometimes and that's what happens. But that doesn't mean he doesn't love me. They have no kind of parameters in terms of relational abuse. They just don't even have it. And I know that somewhere in their lifetime, they experienced it. And so it just kind of seems regular or normal or acceptable to them. I don't want you to ever let your child establish that pattern. So pay attention to their friends. But while we're talking about being a friend, let me describe one more big thing to you. There's so much more about this, but the bottom line is that it's your place as a parent to nurture your child's, affectionate relationships with friends. So when a kid has a friend and they spend the night with each other or they go places and hang out with each other, it is extremely normal for both boys and girls to hold each other's hand. Sometimes they'll even kiss, hug each other in the somewhere between 6 and 10 range. That doesn't mean your kid is gay or going to be a homosexual or going to be a lesbian. You don't need to be all freaking out about that. And you need to give clarity to the child about that. This is just normal affection. I mean, I'm affectionate to you, but we're certainly not going to have that kind of a relationship with each other, right? I'm your mom. I'm your dad. You need to really help your child understand what affection within an appropriate relationship actually means. Uh, you can hold someone's hand. You can put your arm around them. Occasionally, you might even kiss them. You might show them real affection. That doesn't make you a homosexual or a lesbian or a deviant. It just means you're a regular human being with a friend. Okay? I want you to know and understand that one because there's a lot of confusion about that in today's world, not just with kids, but even with adults who don't understand normal development where kids actually really love each other and go through that phase. Boys, can't stand girls. Girls couldn't stand boys. Don't worry, that's going to change soon enough for most kids unless we foster something in them and go, oh, you must be gay. Oh, you must be a lesbian. Don't put that on a kid. Let a kid be normal. Let him be regular. That's just the way it is. People are affectionate with each other when they're kids and they don't feel weird about it. The other thing is be a good example. Have friends. Spend 10 minutes on the phone having a great conversation. And don't whine and cry and complain the whole conversation. I mean, talk about your life and listen to them and demonstrate to your child what a friendship looks like. It's really awesome if your friends have kids and those kids with your kids can get along. I've definitely had quite a number of those kinds of relationships in my lifetime, and it was really helpful. Though I admit, when I got a little bit older, a lot of my friends didn't necessarily have kids. They surely didn't have kids my kids' age, since I had children when they were young. And so my kids saw me have friendships with people that were really different than I am. And so you model to your kids what it looks like to be a friend. I hope that you understand that a huge element of affection in one's lifetime has to do with friendships. So help your child understand how to be a good friend and how to have a good friend. I have a challenge question for you. Are you a good friend? Again, I want you to understand as a parent, we can't give to our child what we don't have. If you aren't a good friend, it's going to be really difficult for you to teach your child to be a good friend. I can honestly tell you, I've had friends that I've known for almost 50 years. That's a really, really, really long time. Most of my life, actually. And my sons would tell you that I'm one of their best friends, and they're extremely good friends of one another. And so, if you teach your child what it is to be a friend and you really have a great relationship with them, by grace, someday when they're an adult, they will be your friend. And it's a great experience. I want you to know that. It is one of the richest things in my life that my sons are also my friends. I hope that you have a great day today, and I will look forward to seeing you with me soon. You may find additional information on our paintabeautifulpicture.com website. Additionally, you may watch me on Rumble, and you may also listen to a podcast on Buzzsprout or Spreaker, all under the name Paint a Beautiful Picture. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. You may subscribe, and if you are interested in receiving notifications, please hit the notifications button.